Like you said, my name is Shane Thornton. I'm actually an independent contract welder. I started getting into laser work, and I started my business about a year and a half ago, and we've really blown up. Last year alone, we sold over 500 clocks. We're in 3 different countries and in 19 states in the first year, so that's pretty good. It went from a little part-time garage deal to us having to have custom machines shipped up from California and built specially for us so we can maintain with our customer base. It's still a struggle. But I'm just here to speak a little while with you guys about what lasers can be used for in your shop, whether it be metal or wood, what they're good for, what they're not good for. We'll talk about different types of lasers, their costs, and then we'll watch a short video about one of the guys I know on YouTube talks about what he uses his for and how an inexpensive diode laser can be useful for you. All right, so we'll start. Obviously, I'm a laser guy. My name is Shane Thornton, and I cut this off because I don't use PowerPoint very often, but my company's name is Your Household Creations. Oh, yeah. So, the advantage of laser cutting over routing. Lasers slice through material, be heat or metal, rather than causing the friction that a router does. The laser is used to cut out designs with unbelievable accuracy where a router sometimes slips. And it also, the added energy beam from the laser doesn't cause any breaking for the metal or the wood or splintering. Also, when you use a router, of course, you get a big mess. You routinely have to change your bits. Laser is not that way whatsoever. You go next. Next again. So types of laser machines, you got CO2 lasers, next. Diode lasers, fiber lasers, and your crystal lasers. We'll go through and discuss some of these a little bit quickly here. Go ahead, Barry. That's a picture of a CO2 tube. My largest machine, my CO2 tube, is over 6 feet long, and it costs about $3,500. So we try not to break them. It's happened though. I'll do one more. All right. A CO2 laser runs electricity through a gas mixture tube, producing a light beam. The tube maintains the mirrors on each end, as the mirrors are fully reflective and one is partial, letting some of the light through. The gas mixture is using carbon dioxide, but you can use nitrogen, hydrogen, or helium. CO2 lasers produce invisible light and infrared range of the light spectrum. That is why so many times I burned myself. Actually, recently I was leaning down into my laser to blow something off and I burnt my forehead because I forgot. Yeah, that's a neat scar to explain at work. Luckily I'm a welder, so I burn myself all the time. The highest powered CO2 lasers range to multiple kilowatts for industry machines. That's talking about like your big metal cutters and things. But also can run down to your 25 or 150 watt, which is the largest machine I currently use, and which is pretty useful. I can run one pass and go about 1.5 inches through pine, no problem whatsoever. Of course, the denser the wood, the more time it takes, the more you have to worry about it. Want to give me another point, buddy? All right. This type of laser is most common for working with wood or paper. Let's see here. It also works with lots of acrylics and plastics. It's also used for working with leather and fabric, although with the wallpaper I didn't have much luck with that. But with the leather and some of your fabrics, just be careful with the fumes that come off of them. They can be toxic. So I did some of the polymers. I was actually using LPs and records and cutting out silhouettes. And I got really sick because of, it's a chlorine chemical that came off of there. And I found that out the hard way. But they're really cool and they sold really well, so that was nice. All right, and they definitely, your CO2 generally work best with non-reflective or non-metallic materials. Although there are certain metals that you can process, but I have found if you're gonna cut something and you're gonna do it quickly, you can use like black spray paint over the top to cut down the reflective as long as you do one pass. It works okay. Let's see here. You can also enhance the power of CO2 by putting oxygen content in, which I don't do because it makes it very explosive. It's also not perfect for every environment. Like I said, there's a lot of chemicals that when they burn, they grease, like chromium and things like that, when you're doing stainless steel. It's kind of a problem. We have one more, Barry? A couple more. All right, so your applications for a CO2 laser, which is probably your most popular, not entry level, but most popular right now. You're gonna be doing your basic cutting or welding with like materials like real thin stainless or aluminum works okay. Because of the high power levels, you can combine it with other lasers, and it's more affordable. What can you cut with a CO2 laser? Blueberry. There we go. can do wood, paper, cardboard, plastic. You can also do rubber, which I don't recommend, leather, metals, and ceramics. I have had good luck with ceramics. You can do a great number of materials, obviously, and for this reason, CO2 lasers are so widely used as the technology in woodworking and many other cutting applications right now. We'll talk about the next laser here. So, I said that wrong. So we're keep here. So our CO2 lasers run you anywhere from $500 to $20,000, depending on what you're looking at. They can go up to $200,000 for industry users, but for us in our garages and things at home, most of our shops, $20,000 is about what you want to spend most. I currently have a 4 foot by 6 foot working 150 watt CO2 laser, and I paid less than $20,000 of that custom built. So it's definitely, you don't really need a machine bigger than that. That's pretty big. Let's see what we got here. Now we're gonna talk about fiber lasers. We'll just touch on this. So this class of machine is part of a solid state laser group, which uses a cedar laser. So there's 2 lasers involved. To amplify the beam, use specially designed glass fibers that derive energy from pumping diodes. Their general wavelength is 1.064 micrometers, producing extremely small focal diameter. So the detail is insane, and the fact you can burn through things so fast with such accuracy is fantastic. They're pretty much maintenance free, and the nice thing about them, while they are expensive, they do run 25,000 hours, usually with no maintenance, and you can replace, obviously, the fiber content. Trying to see here. I just reading. So we can do there's lots of different uses for this, but this is going to be cutting like your big metal and stuff. I know like caravan trailers out by me at Fox Lake, they use a fiber, but they're cutting through 2-inch pipe and stuff with that real fast. That's not usually our use right now, but they are working mostly with metal work, lots of alloys, and that's pretty much what you're going to use it for, is metal work. Obviously, like we just discussed, it's going to be your applications to be cutting, texturing, cleaning, engraving, drilling, marking, or welding. They are using these more for welding right now, which is nice, but it doesn't create a very pretty weld. This is a fiber machine here I put in a corner here. Now, so, like I said, they're a lot more expensive. A small fiber laser, which isn't very large, it starts around $30,000. You can buy small portable ones now for your home for considerably less than that, but they're just meant for metal marking. They're not very usable for like etching or engraving like I'm doing. But of course, you can go up to $600,000 or more on just one machine with these fibers.
We have to raise the dues then.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, and like I said, it's not really applicable to here, but since we're talking about laser cutting machines, I thought we'd discuss it. So this is, there we go. This is going to be describing your crystal lasers here. Crystal lasers use a actual crystal to focus your laser through using a beam generated by the niobium doped garnet or vanadium. They emit a powerful beam that can cut through thicker or harder metals than any other type of laser cutters there are. I've never actually seen one of these lasers besides for YouTube and things, but they're pretty neat. It looks just like your regular CNC laser, of course. Now, diode laser is probably your most popular and affordable. I think I just talked to a gentleman that uses CO2, but does anyone here have a diode laser? Yeah, they're pretty fun. They're affordable. You can usually get them under $1,000. Diode laser is a semiconductor device similar to a light-emitting diode, in which a diode pumped directly through electrical current can create a lasing. Lasing diodes are electronically pumped semiconductors. So there's no mirrors in your diode where there is the CO2, so it's actually conducts electricity right through that laser, goes directly to your piece of material. Usually, like I use wood, using obviously photons released. There's a picture of an Otur right there. I own that laser. It works pretty good. You get about $800, $600, depending what you're looking for. But I think the machine's 20 watts, the diode produces about 5.5 watts. And it's a great machine, it's very slow, but the detail is actually fantastic. And they're easy to maintain. You just clean the laser itself once in a while, and you're good to go. There's a bigger picture of it. I believe that's Oturo 1. You can pick that machine up right there, about $400, and it runs a 16 by 16 area. So So, like I was saying here, between 5 and 10 watts is your diode output. That usually, I did hear someone just released a 20 watt. I haven't had time to mess with that at all, but it seems pretty interesting. Like I said, 5 watts does a pretty good job. I think there's some things up here I use my 5 watt on. Some of these cutting boards. You can see these cutting boards here. These are just done with a 5 watt diode. And if you guys want to go and touch them and everything, that's fine. So I did put up a little video here about using your lasers in your shop and what they can be used for. If you guys want to watch it, that's all right. It's a couple minutes. All right.
For the shop for as long as you can remember, but you've got questions, big questions. Can it engrave metal? Can it cut wood? What software do I need? Will it take over the world if I leave it alone for too long? What's up, Jake? I'm Guys here, and welcome back to the shop. I've wanted a laser since forever, and when Pergear offered to send me their new LaserStorm S5 to check out, I knew I could jump on that opportunity so I could try and learn as much as I possibly could about laser engraving and then share everything that I learned with you. To help give you a better sense of what this laser can do, I'm going to run a few tests on a few common materials that you might want to cut, and then show you the settings that I used as well as the actual time that it took to run each of the projects. But before we dive into that, let's talk about what lasers are and the types of machines that you might see out there in the world. Lasers, or light amplification by the stimulation emission of radiation, are basically a high-powered light shining through a series of lenses to increase the density of that light so that the energy is focused at a very particular point. Think of it like using a magnifying glass to burn ants on a sidewalk, except the magnifying glass is attached to a robot, and you really shouldn't be burning ants on a sidewalk. It's kind of meaningless. There are basically two types of lasers you're going to be seeing around here in the maker community. CO2 lasers like the Glowforge and diode lasers like this Pergear LaserStorm S5. CO2 lasers are going to kick out a whopping 40 to 200 watts of ant burning glory, while a diode laser is going to get you 5 to 10 watts. This makes a big difference if you're going to try and cut through materials like some blast doors in a galaxy far, far away, or are just trying to engrave a sign saying what's behind those doors. Probably more droids. Diode laser robots like this one can be operated with either laser garble or light burn, which both run on Mac or PC. Laser garble is totally free and fairly capable and will probably work for your needs. All you have to do is drag your art into the program, accept a few automatic settings, and then hit burn. However, if you want to really up your laser engraving game, you're going to want to spring for light burn, which at the time of this video costs about 60 bucks. I know it's kind of a huge expense for a cheap laser, but trust me, the functionality is totally worth it. My suggestion here is that you include the extra 60 bucks in your laser budget, but try Laser Garble and the free light burn trial first. If Laser Garble does everything you need, great. Put that extra cash towards buying some materials. If you want me to make a more detailed video about laser software, let me know in the comments down below. The machine I have is the Pergear LaserStorm S5, and it has a cutting area of 16.14 by 15.74 inches. I'm not exactly sure what that is in metric, but it's probably a lot. This puppy has an ultra-fine focus laser blasting out around 5 watts, and according to the Amazon page, can cut through 16mm thick wood and 12mm thick acrylic. Wait. That can't be right. Alright, let's address the bantha in the room. Pretty much every single listing for a diode laser on Amazon has weird typos, or possibly purposeful typos, which make these lasers appear too good to be true. So for the sake of the overview, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and just assume that they meant it can cut 1.6mm thick wood, which is totally fair. With some exceptions, the laser is going to be happiest moving between 1 and 100 millimeters a second. Any faster, and the engrave tends to be fairly light, and we even see some jittering in the corners due to physics. Assembling this laser was really easy. It only took like 20 minutes or so to get it assembled, squared, and moving around. I did have a couple issues getting the limit switches to work, but Pergear was really helpful in getting it figured out, and even sent me a new motherboard to resolve this issue. My only gripe here is that I had to take the enclosure apart, unhook all the cables, switches, and buttons, and then put it all back together again. Not something that the average person would want to do. I also really like how the Z-height or focusing mechanism works. It's really important to have the laser head at exactly the right height when you're engraving a part. And in order to do this, all we have to do is loosen this thumb screw, let the laser head rest on a piece of acrylic, and then lock it back down. It's really that easy. The other nice thing about this particular head unit is that it has a built-in shroud. That, according to the Amazon listing, reduces the light emitted from the laser into your eyeballs by 97%. That being said, this is the same listing that says the laser can cut through 16mm thick plywood, so I highly suggest grabbing some laser safety goggles just to be extra safe. Any odd-shaped parts or materials with irregular or semi-reflective surfaces could totally reflect enough of the laser into one of your only two eyeballs that you'd get some LASIK vision correction, but probably not in a good way. You can run the laser storm through USB, Wi-Fi, or a micro SD card, but I found that USB fits into my workflow a little bit better. It gives me the ability to quickly change settings on the fly, or even run partial programs while dialing in the perfect settings. Alright, before we get into testing, I should point out that this style of laser should not live in your basement without adequate ventilation. I'm running this laser in my garage, and even burning my name into a small cutting board smokes me out of this place if I have the door closed. This applies double to non-wood materials like plastics and foam, which give off some nasty toxic gases when you burn them. I'd like to add some sort of shroud or a vent in the future, but that's going to be a different video. To help give you a better sense of what this laser can actually do, I'm going to run through some tests on a few common materials that you might want to cut. And then I'll show you the settings that I actually used, as well as the actual time it took to run the project. For all these samples, I'll be running this Baby Yoda graphic, which is about 2 inches tall or 50mm. Diode lasers like this laser storm are perfectly suitable for cutting wood, like customized cutting boards or coasters, but they can also etch plastic, stone, and coated metals. The key word here is coated, because this laser definitely does not spew out enough energy to burn metals in any way, shape, or form. However, if you have a metal that's coated with paint, powder coat, or even an anodized aluminum, preferably darker colors, then it can generally make that happen. These first two samples are engraved into hard maple, and each took about 5 minutes to complete. I wanted to start here because both of these samples were engraved at the same speed, but this lighter one is 80% power while the darker one is 90% power. Moving on to some darker woods, I used the same settings on some cherry and then some walnut. You can see here how much better darker materials engrave because they soak up all that extra light energy. I really like engraving cherry because it seems to have the best contrast. I also engraved this painted tile from Michael's that I found the other day, and it turned out alright. But I was really hoping the black would have burned away and left me with a white engraving. The laser also came with some small black acrylic samples, so I scaled down Grogo and used the same 100mm and 80% power settings as before, and this engraving took about 60 seconds to run. Again, it's neat, but not super visible. Engraving solid black materials just doesn't give you really good contrast. So keep that in mind when you're working on your projects. If you're really looking for contrast, engraving dark anodized aluminum is the absolute best choice. I engraved the back of my phone, which is a dark gray anodized color, at about 20mm per second at 95% power, and it took 20 minutes or so. I think I could have run the laser a little faster, but I only have one phone, so there might be some experimenting we can do to run the program a bit faster. Greenbay also sells this cool rotary table thing that allows you to engrave round objects like this dowel rod or a cup or a mug. The Yeti mug that I engraved turned out really nice, but it was a challenge to get everything set up so that the handle didn't interfere. A mug without a handle would have worked a lot better. A really cool thing about diode lasers like this one is that they have an open frame, which makes them mobile, allowing you to engrave onto any surface or object, no matter how big it is. I tried engraving a Grogu on my shop floor, but it didn't turn out that great. But maybe you'll think of a better use for this feature, like engraving a Baby Yoda on your wife's kitchen countertops or something. Alright, now for what you've all been waiting for. What can we actually cut with this laser? This 1/32 inch thick veneer actually measures around 20 thou thick or 0.5mm. Cutting it out took 2 passes with a total of 24 seconds. As with all these examples, I'm using the same engraving settings, so so that's about 5 minutes for the engraved portion. Next, we have a 1/16 inch or 1.5 millimeter thick basswood plywood. I was able to cut this out in one pass, running 5 millimeters a second at 95% power. And this is by far the best looking part that I was able to cut. I wanted to see if I could cut through 1/4 inch thick material, so I ran a few tests on some plywood and then solid hardwood samples. Both were run at 5 millimeters per second, 95% power, and took 13 passes to cut through. Nearly 10 minutes per part, plus the engraving. These edges are super charred, and I would definitely not recommend cutting materials this thick unless you plan to do a lot of sanding. I thought it'd be neat to try cutting foam board, which is a great material for prototyping or making architectural models, but the foam inside just melted and burned, leaving a terrible cut. Cardboard, however, cut really well. This 1/8 inch thick corrugated cardboard cut in 2 passes, which took less than a minute. Cutting out cardboard worked really great for making stencils or even templates. Speaking of templates, we're going to be jumping over into this video next, where I used a laser to engrave a template right onto a wood blank. No need for any sticky, messy contact adhesives. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, so as you can see there, there's lots of different uses for diode lasers, and that particular diode laser right there was only about $500. So I definitely recommend, if anyone has some free time, try to check them out. I do also recommend some of the different software, which we'll discuss real quick here. Go ahead, buddy. Well, I guess we'll go back. We'll talk about...
You want a laser?
You're good, man. So ideal types of wood for engraving. I do recommend your cherry. It's probably the most popular wood for cabinets and furniture. Also, elder looks pretty similar to cherry, comparable pricing, but it does, because of the tight grain and the contrast when you burn it, it turns out really nice. Hard maple, obviously, is like the off-white tan woodish look, and basswood, I actually really good look with basswood. Balsa I haven't done much with. But cherry is my by far favorite to engrave, definitely whatsoever. When we do shows, we typically bring pine wood with us because it's affordable. We can keep our prices down, and we do all 50% sales on site and 50% custom orders. So at the custom order stage, they can order whatever they like. But the pine's just so affordable, so it's easy to do for shows. Okay, so here's the different types of software here. So that's okay. Yep. So Inkscape. This is a free to use and open source vector graphic editor. It's best for laser engraving, can be used in a variety of file formats. Beginners may find Inkscape easy as compared to some of your paint cutting software like Adobe Illustrator or Lightburn. So I do recommend that for your starting out in basic. If you're just doing like templates or anything like that, or like that Yoda he kept showing over and over again, this is a perfect program for that. It's completely free. Adobe Illustrator, now this is a little more complicated program. High quality vector graphics. Logos, it does require a subscription. It can be used in a variety of files like SVG, PDF, or EPS. It's best for creating designs and powerful features such as manipulating tools, color swatches, and styles. You can actually use this program for converting G-code also, which is nice. Lots of the software is measured against industry-leading software. I do recommend the Adobe Illustrating Processing program, but it's great for doing your graphic design, and it's great if you're gonna do portraits, but for your basic engraving, if you used to have an image you're trying to put on, it's fine, but it's difficult to use, I think, unless you have a graphic design background, and it's just not worth the 30 bucks a month or 22 bucks a month, whatever it is. I don't recommend it necessarily if you're just doing graphics. The Affinity Designer, now I did try this one out. It also is pretty similar to Adobe Illustrator, and it actually costs a little more, but it's a one-time fee, so it's just $40 once, and then you have full licensing. I think there's an add-on for if you want to use other computers with it. It's like 10 more bucks per computer. It's not too bad. I do recommend it. It works great. I'd say, well, the nice thing is here, it's a non-destructive program, so when you make mistakes, you can push back or undo as many times as you want to, which is fantastic. It is $40 a year. It says one-time fee, but it's actually a year. And it works out great. And you can also have a mobile app with this one too, which is really nice, because a lot of your new lasers will run right off your phone via Bluetooth. Draft Site, this is also a decent program. This one's $200 a year for your standard or $500 for your professional. I have not used the professional version, I've only used the demo. I also, once again, think it's definitely for more of your really high-end custom graphics and things. You're going to be developing your own, not just using images you find. But it is nice. It also runs very slow on my computer. I mean, I have a nice computer, and it just seems like it's very difficult to process and run. Now, this is the program I recommend everyone use. This is what I use. Lightburn, it's the best for laser cutting and engraving projects. It does require advanced features like multiple passes, vector scaling, stitch engraving, and raster rotation, which is nice. It supports a wide range of formats with DXF, SVG, and EPS. Additionally, it has the best user interface. I find it very easy to use, actually. It took me probably a few days, and I completely mastered the program. It does, you can do different speeds and stuff actively while you're engraving, which is nice. Most of them you set, it sends you a G-code and it's done. You can just stop it and start over, but you can't actively change your settings. Where Lightburn, you can change your settings as you're going, which is really nice. It's compatible with most of them, and your subscription fee is $60 for G-Tope controllers and $120 for your DSP. So most of your CO2 lasers be about $120. That's not too bad. This is my company information here if anybody ever wants to check out our website. Does anybody have any questions about general laser usage in the workshop? What you got, buddy?
You talked about custom work.
Mm-hmm.
If I've got a jewelry box made of cherry and I get you the top, are you able to customize that?
You can do anything you'd like, yeah.
And roughly what would something like that cost me?
Just a regular jewelry box?
Let's say it's a 6 by 10 inch piece of cherry.
I'd probably charge you $35. Doesn't take very long. I'll use my CO2 laser. It'd take me 15 minutes, depending on the image you have.
And you're located where?
Randolph, Wisconsin. I'll give you a card here. I got the cards for you. And then they had discussed doing metal. So this is anodized aluminum. If you guys want to check out these business cards, these are done in both gloss and matte. But these are anodized aluminum, and I engrave these. I sell these to a lot of different companies. So they turn out really nice, and they won't fold and break in your pocket, which is really nice too. Anybody have other questions for me? All right, well, thank you guys very much for having me today, and feel free to give me a call anytime if you have any questions. You want me to do something for you? What you got for me?
Yeah, would you go through what you have out here and tell us what you have?
Sure. So this is just a basic 24-inch diameter clock. The wine cellar, it's a popular design we use. This particular clock probably takes, clean the clock face and the image, about 2 hours to engrave on a CO2 laser. Turns out pretty nice. We sell these for about $125. We used to have a basic, here I can take these off. This is just a basic chessboard. But the reason this one looks so dark is this is a chemical engraving. So this is, we run this really fast, and we use a special chemical recipe I use. I can't tell you what it is, but it makes it really black and goes really, really fast. It saves me a ton of time. People really like that. A lot of times people engrave them, they'll put black paint down and come back and remove the black paint with sandpaper. I've completely eliminated that part of the process. Saves a lot of time. We sell these anyways, we sell these about $75. Then just a basic coat rack. This is done a CO2 laser. It just got some deer and stuff, trees and things on it, very basic, probably took 15, 20 minutes to run. And I just used a torch to burn the bottom here. It's real simple. We sell these about 50 for $60. Real basic cutting boards. Motherhood, a walk through the park with the Jurassic Park logo on there. Pretty simple. Yeah, but people like them. We sell them for $25, and they're not too bad. People enjoy them. This one's a little more innate, so I recommend checking it out. This one took probably 2 hours, maybe 3 hours to run. It's a bear in the woods, but you feel the detail in the engraving. I can pass it around if you like. It's pretty neat. We run a lot of cribbage boards. We started getting asked to do cribbage boards, so we started doing them in bulk. This is just a basic wolf here. This was done on diode laser. That's also one of the reasons it's not quite as dark. I could have done that process and made it darker, but we try to do a little bit of both to show what we have when we're out at shows. We sell these for like $50.
55.
55 if you ask her. Just a basic deer engraving. This is done a little bit deeper. It turned out really nice. People like this right now, especially with Wisconsin. Let's see here. This is just a basic sign we've done. This is also a nice deep engrave. It says, welcome to the cabin, unplug and recharge. These are very popular. Again, I just burned the edge with a basic torch and then bring propane on there, back end. Nothing fancy, but we sell these for $50 also. I can't make these fast enough. Then we do basic plaques like this, between $35 and $50. We sell a ton of them. They take probably, 15, 20 minutes to engrave, and they're just really popular. We do lots of different images. This is a specific image. A person I knew gave me the image, and I've used it quite a few times, as long as I made them a few free ones, so we do that a lot. All right. Then also, something we knew we had recently, we've sold a ton of these lately. These are our multi-game boards, and I put them on a suction cup table at the bottom there, which this one's cheaper now. There we go. So that's just a checker, a chessboard with a cribbage board wrapped around it. On the back side, we do a backgammon board. This one in particular has a special theme, but we sell a lot of them, so it is what it is.
Available in Michigan?
It is. Yeah. I'll show you this one outside though. But yeah, these are pretty popular. I think I sell these for like just about $200. I buy the table frames from people online and stuff real cheap. I can make them, but it's just so cheap to buy them, and I just get rid of the glass. Anybody else got questions for me today?
Do you have your own general patterns, or can a person just bring in a photograph and you can do it from that?
Yep, I can do portraits. We started our company just doing portraits, and that's whatever we have. We charge a $20 upcharge if it's a portrait, just because of the time it takes to burn it. But they turn out fantastic. Otherwise, I purchase my images, draw my own, or I have friends give them to me. Anybody else have anything for me today?
You stay away from trademark items like Harley Davidson and Coca-Cola?
You'll definitely never see me advertise any of that. That's a no-no. That's not on the website.
How about mugs and mallets and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I do have rotaries for all my machines, and we actually do on-site custom like thermoses and stuff. We have like thermoses that are 6 hours hot, 6 hours cold. We sell them custom on-site at our different shows for $20 a piece. And we can do whatever you like. We can fly them out about 20 minutes a piece. And people like that because they come up and ask for it and they come back in a half hour, 20 minutes and get their thermos right then and there. We also do flasks. I think what else we do. Keychains, flasks, coasters. We do a lot of slate. We do pocket knives, grinders, pens. I sell a ton of pens. I did over 400 pens this week. We do bamboo turned pens. That's pretty popular. We do a little bit of everything. And we start out with just 2 portraits. Then a guy asked for a clock. Then he asked for a chessboard. He asked for a cribbage board. And it just kept growing. Now I think we offer like 35 different items. And we do a lot of custom furniture too. People ask for desks and stuff like that. We do that one too. A lot of big oven covers. Those we charge $85 for. I think my overhead on is about $15. So it's pretty good. Anybody else got something for me?
Can you set it up so you could engrave a signature?
Yep. So I do a lot of them. We do a lot of like mortuary type stuff. With some of their funeral homes and people just ask us to do it. So we'll have, for instance, I just did some cutting boards for a family. We did 8 of them. And we had the grandmother's handwritten recipe cards on them. We had a picture of her and then handwritten recipe cards. Or we had a granddaughter that she had passed away and she did a drawing. And we did it on a plaque with her picture, and we had her hand signature and stuff on it for her parents. So that was kind of nice. We also have done some weird things for people.
Like what weird things?
I was mailed a sex swing one time. That was interesting.
What kind of finish do you use?
So I typically like to use lacquer, just to do a quick dry time, but I do a lot of polyurethane too. Lacquer's a little tricky, everybody knows that here. Lacquer's a little trickier to use, but polyurethane's got a longer uptake on it and it won't yellow or anything. What else you guys got for me?
Can you etch glass?
I can, yeah. So depending on which laser I use, it's still more difficult. I do a lot of shot glasses and mugs and things. With the CO2, I have to be careful not to explode them. But, so you want to go something like a thick wall. But with my diode, you can do some decent etching. That's okay. How about you? Do you have luck with your diode etching or no?
I haven't done etching on glass.
No.
I like using it for slate coasters though.
We do a ton of slate coasters, yeah.
Those are nice. You just buy them off Amazon and quick burn on them and
$1, sell for $6.
plus that,
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Yeah. What you got, buddy?
Can you do, like plate glass?
Sure. Yep. We've done lots of we did a lot of experimenting and stuff, and I have no problem with plate glass.
Does it look frosted when you're done?
So what I like to do, it depends. There's different ways to do it. So if we do it real slow with different passes, you get that frosted effect. If you want like a more sharp look, we'll go fast and hot, and you get a more etched look. But you can also buy like frosted paint, and you can come back and remove around it to run the image as a negative. That works out really well. One thing I do I didn't show here, is I take canvases. You take your canvas and you paint it white, and you paint it black usually, whatever color you like. Then you run your image or portrait as a negative, like a negative photo, and you remove that black paint, and it comes out with a fantastic image when you're done. And nobody knows how you did it. That's kind of cool. Anybody else got something for me?
Would you consider being part of our show in the fall?
Yeah, I think I was discussing that
Yeah,
earlier.
I mentioned that to him when I visited his shop. One of the perks of my job, and when I took this thing, I didn't know what it was, but I get to visit the presenter's shop, so it's pretty interesting. So he also told me, well, the neat thing about with the lasers, he can do whatever else he wants, and the laser does the work, you know, while you're not there. But
That's
he
why
did
I
tell me
was-
one time the fire department paid him a call.
Yeah, there's smoke involved. So yeah, and now vents outside. Okay.
But when we were there, my wife was with me, and she had to get out because she felt she was smelling like smoked sausage, you know, or whatever. Because it was going in. We went to eat out later in Beaver Dam. Randolph's about, I'd say, 15 miles from Beaver Dam or whatever, you know. And I noticed when I was in the car, yeah, I smelled like a smoked sausage myself, you know, because they're watching it there and so. But it was pretty neat to see his place, you know, and see it in action. So he showed me a lot of his working with the portraits. It's pretty neat, you know. He can literally do anything, and it's kind of amazing what he's done with his business in less than 2 years.
Thank you. That's turned out pretty well. It's turning a profit, so that's good. And I'm engaged, and she's very expensive to keep happy, so that helps.
He lies.
Anybody else have anything for me? Yeah, buddy.
You lost the button that's on the phone, right?
This is new. Oh man, this is the best Goodwill had. Man, that's all right. Thank you for telling me. Anybody else? Anything else? You gonna pick out my socks or anything?
great.
All right. Thank you very much for everybody having me. I appreciate it. Thank you.